Definitely Frank Woods. Woodsy was larger than life. Well, not now, he's dead, but even now there's a lot of legends about Woodsy in the game. They always say that Frank Woods wasn't afraid of anything, he was fearless. But I happen to know that's not true. There were a couple of things that kept Frank Woods up at night. The main one being voodoo. He was obsessed with the idea that other teams were performing these dark rituals in an attempt to try and knock us off. And so what he used to do was, at the end of every match, he used to make us go back on the ground and collect up any bits of hair or teeth or a band-aid, anything that might give us an edge over them supernaturally. And so we'd pop it in a bowl and give it to Woodsy. He'd rush off behind a door, and I don't know what he was doing in there, but the club went through a lot of chickens. Oh yeah, Zeppelins. Woodsy was terrified of Zeppelins. He watched a documentary about the Hindenburg disaster, and that was it. He banned them from the club. Oh, that was a day we beat the Cats by a point and made the finals. That was a ripper day, that one. We were down at Cardinia Park, which was a tricky ground to play at because there was a definite home ground advantage there. The problem was that just outside the main stand there was a tuck shop with this giant bottle of vinegar on one of the tables. What you do is you'd pump the vinegar onto your chips if you wanted chips. I always got a hot dog, but what would happen at match days was the vinegar would form this puddle on the ground under the table. And on really big matches, what could happen was that this giant intermittent salt lake would form around the ground and would attract seabirds from around the area. And when you were on the field, it was always in the back of your mind that if they really wanted to, Geelong could have called upon this army of ducks that smelt vaguely of poached eggs, which was quite frightening. I actually think some of the best times you have in footy are off the field as opposed to on it. And I always think of the Brownlow medal. I mean, the Brownlow medal's a very, very tame sort of affair these days, but in the past we used to have a lot of fun. You see, what would happen was we dress up and they do the count and they'd announce the winner, and then when the cameras were turned off, Peter Landy would loosen his tie, press a little button on the desk, and a wall would open in the side of the room, and we'd all pass through into this huge ballroom that the Southern Cross Hotel obviously kept quiet. And when we entered, we were all given a glass of champagne, although not the winner that year because he was playing the grand final. And then there'd be a fanfare, and this huge litter borne by about 12 midgets, all in flame retardant suits, would come in, bearing the chief commissioner of the league. And there'd be an applause, and he'd get out of the litter, and then he'd step up onto the stage, say a few words in praise of the winner that year, and Satan, and then he would disrobe. And he would then preside over what Brian Taylor called an orgy of bacchanalian splendour. I mean, basically it was an enlarged version of a typical club pie night, but we used to give it our all. And we were urged on all night by the chief commissioner, who was up there in the centre with usually with a young Moroccan boy, and sort of trying to eat him. I suppose it was when I told a couple of blokes from the club that I was attracted to women who wear false moustaches. And that's acceptable now. That's okay now. But back then it really wasn't the done thing. You had to keep that sort of stuff quiet. And it got out. I don't know how it got out. There were a couple of journos listening to the speech I made, I think. And the next day that was all over the press, of course. And I was dragged through the mud, and I was called all sorts of names. Footballer, Stuart. And I really didn't think I could face the crowd for the next game. I actually thought about quitting that week. Unfortunately, Eddie Maguire said something stupid the day after that, so it was fine.